And MSG1, MSG2 introduced 3 control processes. In fact, hard time limit, maximum interval for performing the maintenance tasks on part or the unit, and a hard time limit may actually be the ultimate scrap, or it may be the time that we would perform maintenance. Such intervals apply to overhaul but also to the total life. On condition, repetitive inspections or tests to determine the condition of units or systems comprising servicing, inspection, testing, calibration and replacement. These first 2 in actual fact was MSG1. Adding to this, which gave us MSG2, was this guy, condition monitoring. Applies to items that have neither hard time nor on condition maintenance, and simply means the part is left to expire. So we leave it. We know one day it's going to fail and we accept it, because we can live with the consequence of the failure. Once you decide you can live with the consequence of the failure, it becomes very different. And we know for a fact that all the components are not going to fail on the same day. It doesn't work like that. So we can wait for a component to fail and we can deal with it. So on a 4-engined aeroplane, we have, for example, 4 generators on the engines. If one generator fails, okay, we've got 3 generators. Plus we've got the APU generator. We can live with this. And this became a different way of doing business. If the engine failed, well, we don't want the engine to fail. So we won't use that process with the engine. We will use another process. And the process we use with the engine is on condition, not condition monitored. And on condition means that we're going to do various inspections, tasks, to satisfy ourselves regarding the integrity. There's a little bit of a misunderstanding about the terminology and the difference between condition monitored and on condition. Essentially, condition monitored means we're paying attention to it, that's all. On condition means we're doing all sorts of additional activities. Today, with MSG3, one of them processes has gone out of fashion. And the process that's gone out of fashion is condition monitored. The process that is in fashion is on condition. And we'll see in a second. MSG1 was superseded by MSG2 in the early 1970s. In fact, MSG1, which was hard time and on condition, really only was in use for one aeroplane. And it was less than a year that they introduced the next stage in this evolution, MSG2. And the big difference with the introduction of MSG2 was the understanding of how the condition monitored story was going to work. These are the guys we just leave until they fall over. The component level used a logic process which considered failures starting at the component level and moving up, with a focus on understanding that all aircraft, engines and components reach a period when they should be discarded or overhauled and returned to a as new condition. And when we do an overhaul, it's a restoration. It may not, in actual fact, return it completely to the original, but it's as close as we can get. Over a time, a number of drawbacks were found using the MSG2 process. MSG2 was not designed to consider economic effects. What does that mean? Well, we would let something wear out when we could have kept it longer by looking after it in a different way. Remember, we said the most important task we can do on an aircraft is lubrication. So if we don't lubricate something that we could have lubricated, because we said, well, if it fails, it doesn't matter, eventually it is going to fail, and because it wasn't lubricated, it's worn and we can't do anything with it. whereas if we lubricated it, we could keep it going for a lot longer. As an example, MSG2 focused on maintaining aircraft safety irrespective of the cost involved. And at the time, it seemed the right thing to do. In actual fact, we need a balance. We must have a balance in all things. MSG2 hidden failures to the pilot do not receive appropriate consideration. What do we mean by hidden failures? Well, we spoke about latent failures, where something is not working, but we don't know about it. The pilot is not aware that the backup system is not working. And this is, the MSG philosophy did not pay enough attention to this. Because MSG2 is a bottom-up approach, it was found to be more labour intensive. In fact, the difference between MSG2 and MSG3 is a factor of about 20 to 25% more expensive for MSG2 than MSG3. So a considerable cost saving by moving from one to the other. There was some inherent contradiction in the terminology. For example, on condition and condition monitored. MSG2 did not pay sufficient attention to modern corrosion prevention methods or measures. United Airlines, a very big company, and of course it's the big companies that get involved in many of these projects because they see the advantage. In fact, made a significant contribution to the further development with sponsorship from the US Department of Defense. The project considered a different approach to deliver effective maintenance. So, whilst MSG1 and MSG2 were quite similar, MSG3 was radically different because it turned the whole story completely around. And it said, instead of looking at it from the components upwards, let's look at it from the system down. So let's start off, if we're talking about hydraulics, let's go into the flight deck. Let's look at what we've got in our hydraulic system. Let's look at how the hydraulic system functions. What can we see in the flight deck? Well, we can switch on the hydraulic pumps. We can see the pressure. Okay? So if we just run one hydraulic pump and we can see that the pressure is correct, then we know that that hydraulic pump is doing its job okay. If the pressure is a little bit low, we know maybe that that pump is deteriorating, so we can change it. And this was the philosophy. Okay, we've done as much as we can from the flight deck. Let's see what we can now do from the various systems. Well, we've got a computer that's controlling, and on the front of the computer is a by-test, built-in test equipment. So let's go to the computer and let's do the tests. How frequently should we do them? We need to decide. Okay, what else can we do? Well, we can actually go and change some filters. We're doing hydraulics, so we have some filters in the hydraulic system. Okay, so we can change these filters. In fact, if we look at the filter, if there is any debris, we can have that debris checked to understand what it is. What else can we do? Well, we can inspect the components for integrity. We can make sure there's no leaks, and so on and so on and so on. And this is the philosophy of MSG3, starting at the top and looking all our way down. At the end of it, we get to inspections. And we group together the inspections and we create a zonal inspection with all the inspections. So we group together many tasks and we make a single task. And this single task is an inspection of a particular zone or area within the aircraft.